So the secret's going to be out. One of the rocks that I had was how do we differentiate ourselves in the market, and for me that wasn't too difficult to determine how we could do that, because I drive by a billboard on the interstate every day to and from work, and I see 4 or 5 of our competitors on that same billboard. That was a fun moment.
Yeah, and why we wear hard hats now.
Mandatory 100% of the time. That is exactly why. Yeah, that's always a great feeling. You got your hard hat and your toolbox, and hey mom, thanks for dropping me off and making my lunch for me. Felt like a real tough construction worker at that time.
Welcome to Two Bees in a Podcast. We're the Jans brothers. I'm Brad Jans, Director of Business Development at Jans Corporation.
And I'm Brian Jans. I'm the head squirrel here, and we want to take you all behind the blueprint and learn more about our passions and our projects and our people and in our processes.
It's a lot of P's. How about we get to the B's, and we'll talk about our company, our values, and some of the projects we've done, and we'll even have a little bit of fun.
Great. Well, what are we doing today?
We had this idea to start a podcast and look at everything we do as Jans Corporation, our values, our people, some of our projects, and we'll even have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, so speaking of the bees, Brad, why don't you go first? Tell us about you.
Sure. Well, born and raised in Sioux Falls, went to Lincoln High School, SDSU for college, and got a degree in construction management. Growing up in the construction industry, our dad started this company in the early 80s, and I think I started my first summer job at 14, and sweeping floors and picking up job sites. Got to travel with a lot of superintendents, and got kind of a firsthand view of how the construction process works, various projects around town, out of town. Yeah, a lot of great memories of youth on a construction site.
You want to talk about maybe how did you get to Jans Corporation? Obviously there was a path in between there. In fact, one of the rules our dad has is you had to go work somewhere else for at least 2 years. How did that pan out for you?
Yeah, so I like that rule. One of the things that made it interesting was I was not always the boss's kid. So to get our college degree and then have to learn what it's like to apply for a job, what it's like to show up every day and do what's asked of you, go above and beyond. My first job out of school, I was an estimator for a company called Dakota Steel in Rapid City. We did a lot of highway work, structural steel. And about a year into that role, I was approached by another general contractor in Rapid City, and they were looking for a project manager. He knew Dale, he knew that at some point I'd be coming back, so he knew it was likely not a long-term fix for them, but it was a great job, great opportunity for me to learn a little bit more on the project manager side. I worked on a lot of really cool government projects, the Minuteman missile silo out by Wall, a lot of stuff with the Park Service, fire towers. So it was a great experience. And after, ironically, my 2-year mark, had the opportunity to buy into a business as a partner, and it was a construction materials business that didn't have representation in Rapid City. So I think I was 24 and opened a store, which I had no idea what I was doing. And we sold windows, doors, millwork to primarily the residential construction market, but we did some commercial projects as well. My wife and I started dating, and I ended up moving back here and took over the Sioux Falls store and did that about 19 years before I was ready to come back home. So Brian, why don't you tell me a little bit more about your history and how you came to Jans Corporation?
Sure. So the secret's going to be out. I was not born in Sioux Falls. I was actually born in Sioux City, Iowa. Tried to hide that my entire life. Fortunately, we moved here when I was 3 years old to Sioux Falls, and so grew up here. Went to Lincoln High School, graduated from there, and as we mentioned, our dad had 2 rules: that we had to go to college outside of high school, and number 2, we had to work somewhere else. So graduated from SDSU with a civil engineering degree. I actually went my first year to Iowa State. I tried to always be kind of the black sheep or do things a little bit different. And since I was born in Iowa, I thought I'd return to my roots and go to Ames. It's funny with Iowa State's a great school, and one of the first classes they signed me up for was economics, and they taught me so well. I learned the value of in-state tuition, and so I transferred back to SDSU to save some money. Another great school, got a great education, and so graduating from there, I took a job in Denver, Colorado for a company called Roach Constructors. They're a large general contractor, do a lot of super Walmarts, big King Super grocery stores. I was a project engineer for them, basically like an on-site project manager, working with a team, and got to be involved on-site, learn a lot of how big construction projects go together, working with large subcontractor companies that were traveling from different parts of the United States, and just a fast-paced construction schedule, how to get things done in a quick manner. If you wouldn't believe it, but Walmart kind of likes to have things done quickly. So after the 2-year stint was up, and kind of the way I addressed that with our dad, it was actually about, if you look at it on a calendar, it was about 1 year and 6 months that I was actually gone. But I showed him all the overtime I was putting in on my projects, all the weekends I was working, and said, hey, look, if you add up all my hours, it counts for 2 years. And some reason he bought that. I'm sure you'll say he always let me get away with things anyway. But moved back here in 2003 and went back into the company. I started working at Janss Corporation when I was 13. Again, beat you in that deal. Started before you did. But again, same thing, sweeping floors, cleaning up job sites, trying to learn every aspect of construction. Poured concrete, set steel joists on the top of an I-beam. Did some carpentry work. They never let me do the finished carpentry work. I don't know why. I'd still have all my fingers and toes, so that's probably why they didn't let me do that kind of thing. Never got to drive the crane either. Still haven't yet. That's still on my bucket list. But moved back in 2003 and started as a superintendent running a project. And then our field superintendent at the time got called over to Iraq for about 14 months. So I took his role running our entire field operation. And when he came back, I gladly gave him his job back. And I think I maybe even hugged him and said, you can have it. And at that point moved into the office and started doing estimating, project management. And then just over the course of time, took on more of the day-to-day operations and moved into the president role about 10 years ago.
So I know you mentioned you started younger than me, but I actually already had 2 years in at that point.
You were 14 when you started. I was 13.
Right, but when you were 13, I was 16. I already had 2 years in.
Yeah, but I had more time. I was younger. Couldn't even drive yet. I had to have mom drive me to work.
My first few job sites, I got picked up to go to them because I didn't have a license yet either.
Yeah, that's always a great feeling. You got your hard hat and your toolbox and, hey, Mom, thanks for dropping me off and making my lunch for me. Mm-hmm. Felt like a real tough construction worker at that time.
Yep.
Yeah. About my family, too. I'll talk a little bit about my family, I guess. So I've been married to Stacy for going on 18 years. We have 3 kids, a daughter who's going to be a senior in high school, a son who's going to be a sophomore, and another daughter who will be in 8th grade. We're in the Harrisburg School District. Been very fortunate. As we talk about legacy in upcoming episodes, it'll be interesting to see how our kids want to be involved. I do know our son wants to be out on the ranch and on the farm, so we'll dive deeper into that, I'm sure, and the fun aspects that has brought. And so it's been a great fun getting my family involved with the family we have here in the company.
And speaking of kids, I know it was never a competition, but our wives were ironically pregnant at the same times. 3 pregnancies. I had 4 kids out of the deal. You had 3, so I guess I could say I took the W on that one.
If that's what you want to call that. I'm happy with our 3 kids, and also we got them done in a shorter period of time. So
true.
We'll maybe agree to disagree on who won that battle.
Okay, fair enough. So let's get back to all those P's you talked about and talk about why we're doing this podcast.
Sure. As a company that runs on EOS and we dish out rocks like they're going out of style, one of the rocks that I had was how do we differentiate ourselves in the market. And for me, that wasn't too difficult to determine how we could do that, because I drive by a billboard on the interstate every day to and from work, and I see 4 or 5 of our competitors on that same billboard. And it was very obvious, like, we aren't doing that because that's what they're doing, and we're different. We're different than what they're doing. So we felt this podcast would be a great way to share who we are, share what we do. That's what makes us different than any of our competition, is the experience and the people that you work with and the people behind the scenes doing that work. And so this is what we're hoping this brings, is that chance to peel back the onion a little bit and again, go beyond the blueprint and see what's really making all the things click and happen.
So one of the P's was people. I think one of the things we're most proud of here is our team. Do you want to touch on that?
Absolutely. We wouldn't be the company that we are today without the people who have helped build the family atmosphere and the group that we have here, with their expertise, their knowledge, and just their passion for what they do. And so we're certainly going to bring some of them on this podcast and talk about individual people who've had their hands in our projects and their role and what they've done to help advance our mission as a company. We'll also talk with past clients, people that we've done some amazing work with. We have such an amazing community here with great businesses and great business-minded people, and people that just have a passion for what they do. We want to share that. And then also just industries that we want to get involved in, things we want to learn more about. We'll bring on some of those exciting people that are experts in their industry, and let's hear what they have to say, and maybe how we as a family of companies can get involved with them.
So with Jan's Corporation, a company that's been in business over 40 years in Sioux Falls, we've had the opportunity to branch out a little bit more, give some employees opportunities to be involved in their trade and look at expanding into separate companies. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of those companies?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So like you mentioned, Jan's Corporation, the 40 years we've been in business, when we started, we always had kind of some self-performed crews on board that did a lot of the work for us on our job sites. And over time, we realized that those groups did things a little bit different than the subcontractors that were out there. And so we recognized that there was maybe a need in the community for them on other projects, not just our own. And so from Jan's Corporation, branched out a company called Construction Solutions Unlimited, CSU, that does all types of concrete work, flat work, foundation walls, site work, paving, sidewalks, all of the stuff concrete. Another one we broke out from us is called the Urban Wood Shop. They're a custom cabinetry and millwork company that also has a line of windows they sell that can provide primarily commercial grade cabinetry for the construction world, but I don't think they've ever turned down a project that's been put in front of them because they couldn't do it. In fact, this lovely table we're sitting in front of was built by them. We have a third company called Blue Arc. That was our precast and steel erection crews. I would put them against anybody in the community for the work they do on setting precast and steel, and the fabricators that we have on that team. And then we just created kind of a fourth company out of that called Creative Construction Partners. And that aspect is the administrative side of the construction world. Our goal with them is to work with other subcontractors that maybe don't have the resources to hire a full-time CFO or HR director or marketing or safety director, and we can help provide some of those services at a fraction of the cost with the great quality that we already do ourselves, and with the professionals that we have on staff that are anxious and willing and excited to help them out. And then do have a relationship with RSA Architecture and Engineering. Have a partnership with them in watching them grow and provide design services across our community.
So I think it's interesting, you've heard the phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. And one of these concepts came to us when a competitor, who's another general, needed help on a job, and they reached out to us and said, we'd love to have your crew help us out. They can't wear your logoed shirts, they can't drive your trucks, And that's kind of how one of these companies was born.
Absolutely. That was the idea. When we were asked, hey, we understand you guys do great work and we would love to have your services on our project. We just don't want to see your last name on our job site because it correlates with the parent company. So yeah, that was born out of that if we had another name for those divisions, and truly we do treat them as separate companies. Obviously we're a family that works together, but they're working in their own lanes. They're not sharing information through the industry of working with our competitors. That's not what we're about. If you look at our core values, they all spell integrity, and that's what we stand on.
And I think along the same lines of creative construction partners, we work with a lot of great subcontractors who are small operations. They're working hard day in and day out on the business or in the business. And then evenings and weekends are spent writing invoices, doing payroll. And it was actually a way for them to get their life back. If we can do some of that work for them where they don't have to go out and hire staff themselves, I think it's a great idea for those guys to earn back some of their time.
Yeah, I recently read a book called One Thing, and the premise of that book is to talk about, well, hey, what's your one thing? What's the one thing that drives you, that motivates you? What's your one thing that pushes you? And I struggled with it a little bit because I'm involved in a lot of things, within the construction industry, within the farming and ranching world all of a sudden, and just in personal life. I struggled with what is my one thing. And after thinking about it, the word opportunity kept coming back to me. And I think that is what drives me, is creating opportunities, not only for our companies, but also for other people, people within our organization, other people we can help with. So to that point, you're exactly right. If we can help subcontractors out with an opportunity to maybe help them perform a little bit better and not have to sacrifice their personal lives, maybe they enjoy life a little bit better. And then even selfishly, we're working with those subcontractors. And so if they're cleaner on their end with their finance and accounting and their HR, that actually ultimately helps us too, because our projects get done a little more efficiently when they've got time to focus on getting the work done and scheduling it, not having to worry about sending invoices and collecting payments. Kind of takes that pressure off them.
Sure. Well, I'm still trying to figure out my one thing. I do enjoy helping people. I love the process of projects, watching a piece of bare ground that turns into someone's home or someone's office. Right now, I think it's meat. I just really like meat.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
I was going to say your one thing is definitely not reading books.
Nope. I set out this year to read one a month, and I've read 1.5, and we're in July.
1.5 the whole year?
Yeah.
Have you tried audio?
No.
You need to. That will change your life.
Okay. I'll give that a look.
Give it a listen.
But listen. So looking back at our history in this company, I want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that really stand out, both from great projects in the community, some that maybe had a humor element. Tell us about one that at the time I actually got a college credit for being the superintendent. It was at the nursing building at SDSU. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that project. I think you and I were both in college. I didn't get any credit for it, so I'm surprised that you did. I know there are a lot of funny stories out of that project with you being in charge. I know there was another gentleman we had that was a little older that was helping us, and I remember unloading cabinets one day, and we were trying to haul them up. I think, was that on the third floor?
Third floor.
Third floor of the nursing building. And we were all hauling them up. The elevator wasn't working, or we had to protect it, so we were trying to hike those up, and this older gentleman grabbed one of the bigger cabinets, and I didn't think he was going to make it. And I just remember saying, geez, I think your eyes are bigger than your muscles. And we still laugh about that comment today. But I remember our competitions that we had at lunchtime in Great Brookings. I think it was the Godfather's Pizza Buffet. Do you remember those stories?
Oh, it was all you can eat, and I think the contest was who can eat the most slices of pizza at lunch.
Did crust count, or did that not count?
We said crust did not count.
That's fake rule. Okay.
Yeah. So the funny part was we would stuff ourselves and then go back to the job site, and not a lot of work got done after that. Just, we were miserable, and it was like, I think we need a nap before we can start again.
Well, as a superintendent, you probably didn't have to work. You just had to tell everybody else what to do.
Right, we had a schedule, so yeah.
Well, I remember one of my key memories of this project, which you probably don't remember. I wasn't 21 yet at the time, so of course my after-hours adventures weren't nearly maybe the same as yours. And so I was tasked with driving the van up every day to the job site. So we'd leave Sioux Falls at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was the driver. Our brother-in-law was the co-pilot, and it was a 13-passenger van, and there was like 5 rows of seats. And so the other 5 guys all laid down and took naps all the way up there. And that frustrated me a little bit because I had to stay awake and alert and drive everybody there. So I always made sure the one stop sign right before campus was a good time to check the brakes. We'd do a little brake check, and everybody'd come rolling off of their seats onto the floor, and, oh, time to get up,
Yep.
Time to go to work.
Wake up, we're in Brookings.
Right.
I do remember.
Those are good times. Wonder if the nursing building is still standing.
Yeah, I actually was up there a couple weeks ago and it's still there.
Great.
I know this is another little side story, but one of my first projects, our dad put us with a guy who was like our head carpenter at the time, and it was a remodel of the high school in Centerville. And we sat down for lunch in one of the classrooms, and his wife, kind lady, made his lunch every day. And he'd eat his sandwich, he'd eat his chips, and then he always had this brownie in a cellophane, wrapper, and he would throw it right in the garbage. And I could never figure out why he never ate the brownie. So one day I asked him, like, what's the deal? Like, is there something wrong with that? He goes, well, bless my wife, she makes these gooey brownies, and he goes, I can't stand them. So he goes, I don't have the heart after all these years to tell her I don't like them, so I just throw them away.
Well, I just saw him a couple months ago. He's still happily married, so I'm sure he's still not eating those brownies.
I won't tell his secret.
Being in the construction world, not everything's always fun and happy. There's been some, it's a dangerous industry, and there's been some close calls and some accidents that have happened. Has there been any times you've been in one of those close calls, or maybe had some injuries that happened?
Yeah, I've had stitches a couple times. The one I recall the most was unloading floor joists off of a forklift, and those gusset plates that hold the corners together are razor blade sharp. Didn't have gloves on, we were just stacking them. And I remember pinching my fingers between 2 of those joists, and I just yanked them out as quick as I could. And I was standing there going like, man, that hurt. I was shaking my hand, and a guy across the site goes, hey, I think you're bleeding. I was completely covered in blood. Cut the top of my finger wide open, had to go in and get stitches. And about an hour later, another guy from the job site comes in, shoulder slashed open. He goes, yeah, I tried carrying him across the site and cut my shoulder.
Hopefully they found a new way to move trusses.
Yeah, and we wear gloves now, but
That's
how about you?
smart.
Any close calls?
Oh, there's one in particular that I can remember. We were working on a school addition in Adrian, Minnesota, and we were doing some fireproofing in between classrooms and the hallway. And so we had to install angle iron up above on both sides of doorways so we could put insulation in there and basically fire seal it. And so I was working with one other gentleman in the scissor lift with me. He was an interesting fellow. He liked to smoke and chew tobacco at the same time. It's very impressive. That was the only thing he could do, two of the same things at the same time. It was impressive. And he was hanging out in the back of the scissor lift. And then I had another guy who was cutting for me, and he was actually the assistant superintendent. So I would go up in the scissor lift, take a measurement, come down, tell him what size angle I needed. He would cut it, drill 2 holes, and then I'd go up and install it with 2 screws. And my sidekick would, I don't know, he's kind of like my hype man. He was just like, yeah, you keep doing that. And I remember thinking to myself that this is dangerous because a scissor lift is built to just fit through a door frame, and both width and height. And so it was very tight fit to get through a door frame. And again, I told you I had to do both sides. So I would get one side done, and then I would have to peek my head over the railing of the scissor lift to guide line up to get through the door frame. And we had the scissor lift extended out, so the controls were actually behind me. And I remember on a couple of occasions, lining up and then moving forward and forgetting to pull my head out over the railing. And I will tell you, one time I forgot. And so my head did get caught between the door frame and the rail of the scissor lift was under my chin. And again, the joystick was behind me. And if you've ever ridden on a scissor lift, they have momentum. They don't just come to a complete stop. They kind of roll, stop. There's a lot of weight behind them. And so they roll forward. So it pinched pretty good. It was kind of choking me. The guy in the scissor lift had no idea what was going on. I think he was off on his third pack of the day. And so I had to reach behind me and actually grab a hold of the joystick. And if you're familiar with those, they have a little thing you need to lift up. And then I had to push it behind me to back it up. And I didn't know if I could do it. I was about turning blue, about ready to pass out, and finally got the scissor lift to move back. And I stood up and everybody's like, "Are you okay? Like, what happened?" And I said, "I think I'm all right." I just kind of pinched myself. And I remember touching my head and blood was pouring down my arm. I was like, "I don't think I'm okay." So our assistant superintendent was a big burly guy, big biker. And he said, "That's it, I'm taking it to the clinic in Adrian." So we drove down there and got into the ER, and the doctor started kind of poking around in my head, and this big burly guy was like, "Brian, I'm gonna wait for you out in the lobby." Like, he was done. He didn't want to watch that anymore. I ended up with 13 staples in my head and a couple stitches inside there. I still have a scar. I've never been able to shave my head since because it probably looks like a railroad track up there, and I'm not really interested in seeing what that looks like. So that was a fun moment.
Yeah. And why we wear hard hats now.
Mandatory 100% of the time. That is exactly why. So Brad, what's your favorite part about working in construction?
My favorite part has got to be the process of progress. When you start with a job as bare dirt and you dig a hole and the concrete goes in, it starts getting framed, it becomes a structure, whether it's someone's house, if it's someone's business. Being able to bring a person's dreams into reality, I think that's the neatest part of this job.
Great. Would you like to hear mine?
Why don't you tell me? It's a great question, Brian.
Oh, gee, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
For me, it's really the variety of what we do. There's so many aspects of what someone could do to get into the construction industry. We're not just people who know how to build. We have a marketing team. We have HR people. We have finance and accounting people that are excellent in what they do, and it all benefits the construction industry as a whole. So there's so much variety in just the people that we interact with, but also the businesses that we work with. We are experts in construction, but we've gotten to know quite a bit about churches and about hospitals and about businesses and how they operate and what works for them, warehouse and manufacturing. Being able to learn tidbits about different businesses and different industries has been just an experience for me that I couldn't get in any school, and being able to get involved with what those organizations and industries do for our community has just been a lifelong blessing for me to be a part of.
And I think we are able to get creative because everyone's situation is different. So looking at what one person's dreams are, it can be totally different from someone else. I know we say a lot, building dreams, solutions, and tools for our clients, and that's something I think we should talk about.
We certainly will. That is our mission statement. That's what we do. And I think in most cases, we're able to provide all three of those for each client. Even when we've built the same building twice, we have never built the same building twice. We have a lot of repeat customers, and we do a lot of similar buildings for our customers, but there's never been one that's gone exactly the same. And how our team is able to react to that and adjust and make adjustments where we need to and get better each time is truly remarkable.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of Two Bees in a Pod, Beyond the Blueprint. Again, I'm Brad Jans with my brother Brian Jans. Please, like all the kids do these days, like, share, subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a future episode.
We appreciate you being here. If there's something that you want to hear us talk about, whether family business or the construction industry or just something fun, leave it in the comments and we'll certainly talk about it. Thank you.
So more to come. Stay tuned. It's going to get crazy.
Let's party.